Hello, I am alive. So ignore whatever's going on behind my room right now. I'm still in the stages of unpacking, so it's a mess. I'm also using my phone to record, and it's like 4 p.m. but already getting very, very dark because of daylight savings ending. Everything is janky and suboptimal is what I'm trying to tell you, but here I am wearing a smoky eye, filming a video a full year after I left YouTube. And so I just want to talk about it a little bit, you know, like why I left, what I've been up to, why I came back, what you can maybe expect from me moving on. So without any further ado, let's get it. I think I want to start on a positive note, so maybe let's talk about some fun, cool things that happened to me over the past year. So first off, I cut my hair. I'm back to the pixie cut, but before that, you guys actually missed the entire process of me growing my hair out super duper long till it had actually gotten a little bit past my shoulders. But unfortunately, I was really stressed out and my hair was falling out at a pretty alarming rate. And it was incredibly frustrating to have to deal with the large amount of long hair that was falling out. And so towards the end of June, I just made the decision to cut it all off and go back to the pixie. Now, my sister did get engaged really recently. She's getting married in autumn of next year, and I think in honor of her wedding, I'm going to try to grow my hair out again. It's gonna suck. I'm gonna have to go through that awkward phase all over again. I hate that I've made this decision, but never fear, you will see me suffering and with long hair over the next few months. The other cool thing that happened is that you are now officially talking to a lady with an undergraduate degree. Boom! I now officially hold an honors Bachelor of Arts with distinction from the University of Toronto. I double majored in Latin American Studies and International Relations, and I graduated this past June with little to no fanfare because we were still super in the middle of Rona. There was absolutely no ceremony. They just kind of like had our names scroll past a screen with no one even reading it out. It was definitely anticlimactic and a hell of a letdown considering that it actually took me 9 years to get this stupid piece of paper. But the important thing was I got it done, and I now not only have this stupid piece of paper, but I also have something of like an inspirational story. For all the folks out there who had mental health issues get them way off track with their academic achievements or even their career paths, I'm here to tell you with this dumb piece of paper that if you want to get something done, it may take you a little longer than others, but you will get it done eventually. The last year has also really shifted my priorities and my interests. Like you guys know, because I've talked about this repeatedly on my channel, that I've always said I wanted to be a lawyer. But given the life-changing havoc that Miss Rona wreaked on all of our lives, and the way in which health has just kind of come to the forefront of my mind along with the minds of so many other people, I just found my interest straying further and further from law and closer to public health. Like, okay, in my final semester, I was in this class called Global Governance and International Law, right? It was this class that was all about like politics and economics and law. And yet, my final paper ended up focusing entirely on vaccine nationalism as a case study for whether globalization was in decline or not. Similarly, I was in another course, Regional Perspectives on the Hispanic Caribbean, which is basically a course that discusses the culture and society and history of Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. And in this history and culture class, I ended up writing my final paper on reproductive rights, medical experimentation, and sterilization on women in Puerto Rico in the 1900s. Basically, like throughout the year, I kept taking these courses, which 100% gave me plenty of opportunities to write papers about law and politics. And yet, each and every single time, I instead used those opportunities to write about health-related topics. And to me, that felt like a sign. You know, I kind of hate how like wishy-washy that sounds, like some sort of like omen from the universe. That's not what I mean. I mean that it felt like an indicator that my interests were shifting in life. you know, that the things I truly cared about had shifted in some sort of a significant way. And I definitely fought it for a bit because I think I had held on to this idea of being a lawyer as the exalted end goal to my academic career for so long, right? I had clung to that idea. But if the lockdown has given those of us trapped in our houses any one thing, it's time. You know, time to sort of really think and reflect on our life choices, on why we decided to do certain things the way that we did, what actually matters to us, what kinds of choices we want to be doing moving forward, what kind of lives we really want to be living moving forward. At least that's what kept my brain up at like 2 a.m. every single day of lockdown, where it was just like I had nothing to do but think. And all of that made me realize that it was okay to change tracks. I wasn't suddenly a failure if I didn't become a lawyer just because that's what I thought success looked like for such a long period in my life. You know, like goals and priorities change, and that's okay. And not only is it okay, it's better to kind of go with the flow than fight it because you're clinging to the past or because you're like listening to that disembodied voice inside your head of some stern Asian auntie who tells you that the only way you know that you've made it in life is if you've become a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. Do y'all have that voice? Because I definitely have that voice. Is it just me? Like, maybe she's not an Asian auntie for you, but she's some sort of like voice in your community who has like very loud and vocal opinions on how things should be done and what constitutes appropriate and inappropriate behavior in society at large. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, or am I like unhinged? Anyway, I finally decided to ignore her ass and I started applying for jobs across the board. So not just in law and government and in NGOs, but also in the field of public health, which was a field that I was like relatively new to and inexperienced in. And I really lucked out because I managed to land an interview and then a job at Johns Hopkins University as a research program coordinator in their Department of International Health. I would have been the biggest fool in the world not to take that job, so I did. And now I'm working on 2 projects. So one is trying to run vaccine checks for when kids enter school in Zambia to try and find those children who have like missed any of their vaccine doses. And then the other is working with pregnant women in Bangladesh and Kenya to see what concerns they and their community members have about the COVID vaccine and any other like maternal vaccines that women have to take during pregnancy. It's really interesting. I only started working in October and I feel like I'm learning so much every day, and I'm constantly surrounded by people who are way smarter than me, and every day I'm just like, wow, like this is really my life. Like I get to experience all of this. I'm so lucky. The only downside is that I had to move out of my beloved city of Toronto and down to Baltimore, Maryland instead. Luckily, my parents do live down here, so I'm coming to you now not from the like tiny bathroom of my apartment in Toronto, but instead the spare room of my parents' house. Like I mentioned kind of at the start of this video, I'm still in the middle of unpacking. There are still boxes everywhere. I just like built and assembled and began organizing a shelf earlier today. I'll see if I can like insert some footage of that. Like, yeah, it sucks to have left Canada and to be living in the US of A now, but I am very glad to have a room with windows now, even if, God, it gets dark so early nowadays. And I am very lucky to be able to like live with my parents and save on rent so that I can begin kind of aggressively paying down my student loans. It's good on the whole, is I think what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm good. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to put this section here, like right at the forefront of the video, to just remind everybody that like, I'm good now. I'm fine. And to please keep that in mind moving forward, because when I started talking about how I was feeling and why I left, like it was bad, y'all. It was real bad. So let's maybe sort of move on to that section now that all of the like fun, cute little updates have been done. Okay, it's beginning to feel like it's like hella dark in here. So let's see how long before the light abandons us entirely and I have to switch to the room lighting. I've literally never filmed in here before, so I have no sense of like whether I'll look deranged under the actual fluorescent lighting in the room. But it's no secret, I think, for anyone who's been watching my channel for a while that I definitely have some mental health struggles, right? I've been very open about the fact that I have ADHD, and that it also dovetails quite strongly with some depression. I always hesitate to talk about my mental health issues because, funnily enough, YouTube loves demonetizing those videos, and I don't really have a problem with the demonetization because, like, whatever, what was I gonna make, like 5 cents from the video? The problem is more that, like, when YouTube flags content for demonetization because it has, like, a sensitive topic or whatever, it doesn't actually show up in as many of your home pages or recommendeds or feeds, right? And I know not everyone who's subscribed to me is actually like regularly checking their subscription feeds. I know that sometimes it's just like you open the homepage and boom, one of my videos that came out maybe like a day ago is there. And so I'm gonna try and use some like euphemisms or whatever to talk about what I'm talking about. But suffice it to say that I think those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, like, you know, I have some issues to work through, and I had been working through them for the 1.5 years that all of you knew me on YouTube. And while I was pretty open in terms of sharing how I was feeling a lot of the time and when I was sort of feeling less stellar than usual, the reality is if you were seeing a YouTube video from me at all, it meant I was in a relatively good headspace compared to my worst days. Because getting ready for filming, editing, and then uploading a YouTube video is a monumental task. It requires a lot of time and a lot of energy. So even the videos where you saw me kind of like struggling a little bit, or maybe like having something like of an emotional reaction or talking about some very like real shit that I was going through, the very fact that you saw that video at all is a testament to the fact that I was maybe feeling better from my lowest moment, right? Because at my lowest moment, I would never ever have the time or energy to actually be able to film a video, particularly once I moved to my apartment in Toronto, which meant that every single time I had to film a video, like in my old setup, I had to clear my entire bathroom sink, set up my tripod and camera on my bathroom sink, film, put all of that stuff back because the only place that I could put everything I'd taken off of the sink, like in the bathroom, was on top of the toilet seat. So then for the toilet to be functional, everything had to be put right back. And then I would have to like go do all of the editing and stuff. So just filming alone was very inconvenient. And the fact that I was able to do it for so long is like a testament to how much sort of like energy and zeal I had going for me. What started happening once we sort of hit September and October of last year is that I started having a lot of bad brain days. I think the thing is, like, when you have ADHD or like chronic sadness or nervousness, what ends up happening is like you learn how to manage it and live with it. But every once in a while, you just have like a really bad day. Just like how, you know, every once in a while you have like a bad hair day and you just can't do anything about it. You just have to live with how crazy your hair looks that day. And then you go to sleep at night and you hope that when you wake up tomorrow and you shower, it'll like resolve itself. So in that same vein, I have what I call bad brain days, which is like every once in a while, I just have a day where it's like my mood is not it, or my ADHD is like really acting up or something like that. And I just kind of try to find a way to get through that day and make sure that that day doesn't leak on into the next day. That I have, you know, just one bad brain day instead of a series of bad brain days. And the thing about these bad brain days is I have them like once a month, maybe like twice a month, a little more frequently in winter because seasonal affective disorder, she's really something, you know? Like, she makes me sad as hell. I have to be taking my vitamin D and shit to make sure I don't sink into a complete sadness. But once we hit lockdown, and there were like a lot of different things going on, including like my own family members getting sick, and we lost a family member and all of this kind of other stuff. What were these occasional once in a month occurrences? They started happening more and more frequently. It would be like every week I would be having a bad brain day, then twice a week, then 3 times a week. And then suddenly, without realizing it, it was like every day was a bad brain day. And I don't want to talk about how it is I am during those days, because honestly, it's like very personal. And every time I think about it, I feel like a big type of way, because it just like takes me right back to it. And also, like, I don't want to make this like a hella downer of a video. So I think what I'm specifically going to do is I'm going to talk to you about how when I'm having a bad brain day, how that specifically affects my YouTube channel insofar as like filming and editing and uploading videos. So I've already talked a little bit about how, you know, my energy levels are generally very down on those days. So filming, which requires me to shower, put on makeup, and then do the whole thing with my bathroom to get my tripod up and then film, that's like an ordeal. It's a multi-step process. It's like a lot to try and handle when I barely have the energy to like brush my teeth or even like eat something, right? Those are often days where I'm just sort of like stuck in my own bed. But I want to talk a little bit more about what the process of editing is like on a really bad brain day. So my brain is honestly my own worst enemy and my own worst critic. And those of you who've ever edited a video, actually, let me perhaps talk to those of you who've never edited a video before. Do you remember the first time you ever heard a recording of your own voice? And you probably had this like extreme feeling of discomfort where you were like, what? Who is that? Like, that cannot be me. I do not sound like that. Am I really that nasal sounding? Like, this is disgusting. Turn it off. Now, think of that feeling and magnify it by 100. And that is what I undergo every single time I sit down to video edit, right? Whenever I sit down to edit footage of myself, not only am I hyper aware of how my voice sounds, but because it's a visual medium, I'm also hyper aware of how I look. I'm super aware of what my skin is like, what my hair is like. I start noticing things about my facial features that I had never noticed before. I start noticing how I like gesture or move my hands. I become very much so hyper aware of every single thing about me, every single thing about the way that I sound, the way that I look, the way that I move, the way that I behave. And the thing is, all of these things that make me me, right? I'm sure there are things which are completely innocuous, like nobody even notices them on the day-to-day, and the things which are slightly more quirky or noticeable are probably the things that people like about me. And when I have good brain days, I'm able to remind myself of that fact, because no matter what mood I'm in, when I'm editing, I'm hyper aware of myself. But my attitude towards that hyper awareness shifts depending on whether I'm having a good or a bad day. On my good brain days, I can remind myself the things I said above about how these little quirks are probably the things that people like about me, how they're innocuous, how I just need to like ignore the hater voice in my head. But on my bad brain days, every single thing that I become aware of, I also become hypercritical of. It doesn't just become, oh, this is the way that you talk, or this is the way that you move your hands, or this is the way that you look. It becomes, why is this the way you talk? Ew, like, look at how much you're moving your hands. Can't you sit still? What the hell was that word choice? Why does your skin look so bad? My God, you were so fucking fat, Prachi. And also, why do you breathe that way? It's so obnoxious and annoying. And I think when you get to a point where you are criticizing the very way in which you breathe, you need to like take a step back. And I found that that was the state that I was putting myself into every single time I was trying to edit. Because what you guys don't know is that aside from the last video I uploaded, I had also filmed 2 other videos at that same time that I was supposed to edit and upload. And I just could not do it. I found it such a torturous and self-hatred inducing experience to try and edit those videos that I was just like seething with frustration at myself and then suddenly crying because I had made myself feel so bad. And luckily enough, I have had like enough therapy in my life that I was kind of able to clock that this was unhealthy and unsustainable, and that maybe I should refrain from editing videos if this is how it made me feel for now. And so that's what I did. I decided I was going to take a step back. And the thought inside my head was always that it was going to be temporary, that I was just going to figure out what the hell was going on, why I was having so many bad brain days, what was happening. And then, you know, maybe it would be like a 2-week break or a 3-week break, and then I would be back. And I think the thing that I realized is by that point, by like mid-October of 2020, I was having a really bad time. There were like 6+ months of mental stress taking a toll on me. And I had experienced all of them in complete isolation because I was living alone, completely away from my family. I couldn't see any of my friends. We were all in an extreme lockdown. And then on top of that, we had the added layer of school stress. I was in my final semester. I was trying to graduate. And not to reveal some like medical information or whatever, but I think it also is significant to know that because of lockdown, there was a disruption to me accessing my ADHD medication. And so just functioning like a human being, trying to survive in all of my classes, trying to make sure that everything was okay, that I was going to, please, for the love of fucking God, graduate in June of 2021. That was an incredible struggle. And I was really, really not doing well for the entire sort of like last quarter of 2020 and then well into the first couple quarters of 2021. And I tried multiple times. I do want you to know that. I tried multiple times to film videos and make a comeback. And twice I actually got as far as sitting down and filming an entire video. So one was kind of right at the start of February, like a little bit before Valentine's Day, and I thought for sure I was going to be able to make a comeback because I had the energy level and wherewithal to actually sit down and film an entire video from start to finish, giving you guys like an update on what was going on. And then when I sat down to edit, that voice was back with a vengeance and I just couldn't do it. And then basically the same thing happened to me in like July, right after I had graduated, right? I thought, you know, for sure I've graduated, I'm all good now, the stress levels have gone down, surely my brain isn't going to be an asshole about me wanting to film and edit, but I couldn't do it. I had footage of 4 failed video attempts that I just absolutely could not edit. And I woke up today and I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to film. Oh God, I'm getting like choked up. I said I would not do this. And I'm like hoping that now, today, like when I sit down and try and edit this video, like I'll be able to do it. So I guess if you're watching this, success, I no longer hate myself when I'm editing videos. Let me regroup. Oh God, it's also gotten so dark. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if my eyes are still red, but I have collected myself. I've also moved further back and turned on all the lights in this room. Hopefully this is better looking than it was before. But yeah, I got a little overwhelmed there because I think the thing I realized is that I had a lot of feelings of failure surrounding the way in which I had left things, and a really huge sense of having let people down. Not just all of you who, you know, subscribe to me, who I essentially made a promise to, but also myself, because this is something that I told myself that I would do, and then I didn't. And I think that on some level really kind of like messed me up, and the weight of all of that just came like dropping down on me right there. But I think that all kind of ties into why I'm back now. Because even if realistically, I know there's probably like no one watching anymore because it's been like a freaking year, you know, like who keeps up with people after that long? I feel like I need to film and upload this video like for myself, if for nobody else, just to prove to me that I'm okay and that I can do it. Even though I like left and abandoned something and couldn't physically or mentally do something at that particular point in time, it doesn't mean I necessarily abandon it forever. It doesn't mean that I'm a failure, and that at any point in time I can come back and be like, hey, we're good now, let's pick it back up, let's keep going. You know, because honestly, like when I think about it, not to get super deep, like life has been like really weird and crazy and disruptive for me, and I have for a very long time never thought of myself as a particularly like persevering or gritty person. And it has actually taken a lot of convincing on the part of several therapists that I am in fact a person with some sense of grit or perseverance. Because to directly quote my last therapist, nobody else would have failed as many times as you did during your 9 years of schooling and yet kept going and gotten your degree. So that's the thing I've been trying to keep in mind as I move forward, which is that actually, as a matter of fact, I am a thoroughly stubborn and obstinate person when it comes to getting things done. It may take me a lot longer than some other people, and I may struggle a million times along that way, but every single time I have fallen down in life, I have gotten the fuck back up. And I can't dismiss that track record of me getting the fuck back up to only focus on my track record of me falling down. So yeah, sorry, this got like, I was just trying to explain why I left and came back. Like, what happens whenever I sit down in front of a camera. I just end up like word vomiting my entire life out. I am so sorry, but it is what it is. I want to say that I'm tentatively back for real, right? Like if you're seeing this video, if I'm capable of editing again, then I want to get back into it. I feel like I have things I want to say now. I feel like I'm comfortable enough in my own skin again that I can tentatively promise you guys one video a week for the foreseeable future. Now, the thing that I do want to discuss is that I don't know necessarily if it's always going to be a beauty video. Like one thing that has happened to me as a result of my no buy year is that I have developed a bunch of different hobbies and interests. One of those is rediscovering a love for reading. And so when it comes to my patterns of media consumption on YouTube, I still watch beauty YouTubers, sure, but I actually tend to watch a lot more other types of content creators, especially booktubers, because for reference, in the year 2020, I think I read 6 books total, and all of those 6 books were after lockdown was initiated and we were trapped inside our own homes. In 2021, this year, so far, I've read 48 books. So reading has become like a very big part of my life again. I've definitely introduced some like fun, cool reading projects for myself. I do want to talk about the books I like and dislike. And so I think like in between the beauty content, you are definitely, I think, going to see some of those videos talking about books from me. A part of me was like, maybe I should just start a new channel in order to talk about all of that stuff, because the YouTube algorithm hates it when you try to do something different from the style of video that you've always done. But honestly, I think that's a failing on the part of the YouTube algorithm, and I don't want the algorithm to dictate how I run my life. I think there should be more spaces on YouTube and on the internet where people can hold multiple interests and ideas and types of information at once. And so it's all going to be on here because this is my YouTube channel. You know, like this is the account that I created God knows how many years ago when I created my first YouTube account. Like this is the account that I do all of my watching on. This is the account that I create my music playlists on. Like this is my YouTube account. And so I wanted to sort of reflect everything that's going on in my life and not just necessarily the beauty aspects of it. So if any of you are still out here, trust me, I will not get offended if you only want to watch my beauty content and you just like don't want to watch me ramble about books I read during the month and what I hated and what I loved and what challenges and all I'm setting myself. Like I totally get it, because maybe that's just like not your wheelhouse, but I'm just giving everyone a heads up that I think that type of content is going to start coming up soon, because it is a significant enough part of my life that I would want to talk about it on YouTube and hopefully find some like-minded people who are also as enthusiastic about reading as I have recently re-become, if that makes any sense. So that's everything. I have been talking for an insane amount of time now. I feel like this is a very long video. I'm also very drained. I kind of just want to like go down, make myself a cup of tea and relax. I'm going to tentatively say that I think I'm going to be fine editing this and that it feels good to be back. God, it's gonna be shit if I don't actually end up editing this and this just ends up wasting away on my hard drive like all of those previous attempts, but I feel good. And so I'm gonna say I'm glad to be back. And for anybody still watching, I am so incredibly grateful to you. And thank you. That's all I really got.